Okay, this is section 5.4, and we're going to be solving equations with decimals. And this is not too bad. So if you have your book, I'm on page 406. So let me do a review, just remembering how to solve, in case you need that. It's been a while. So let's say we had x minus 5 equals negative 11. And this happens to be on the bottom of the page, number 325. So do we remember how we would get x alone by himself? We need to get rid of this minus 5, so we do the opposite. We add 5 to both sides. What we do to one side, we do to the other to balance it out. So these drop out, bring the x down. Well, what's negative 11 plus 5? Well, I know my answer is going to be negative because I have more negatives with the 11. And I just subtract. 11 minus 5 is 6. So my answer is negative 6. And do you remember how to check that? Remember, we're going to take the negative 6 and plug back in for x and see if it works out. And I know we did a lot of this before break, but that's been a while ago, so you may have forgotten. So this is the check. So let's check it. Negative 6 minus 5, does that get me to negative 11? I don't know. Let's see. When I have two negatives, remember I'm going to add them together. So negative 6 plus negative 5 does get us negative 11. So the true answer is x is negative 6. It does work and it checks out. So I hope that kind of takes you back to a little bit of a review. And that's how we're going to be doing. But we're going to be solving with decimals now. So you're going to be seeing something like this. This is number 290. In this case, I want to solve for m. I want to find out what m is When I add m to 4.6, I get 6.5. So I've got to get rid of that plus 6. Whoops, I'm sorry. I got to get rid of that 4.6. What do I need to do to both sides to get rid of the 4.6? I do the opposite. I subtract 4.6, and I line up my decimals, because I am subtracting. So these cancel out, bring the m down, and I'm going to just do a regular subtraction. Can I take 6 away from 5? No. So I need to borrow from the 6. This becomes a 5, and this becomes 15. Sorry about that. So 15 minus 6 is 9, and 5 minus 4 is just 1. So my answer is 1.9. So how do we know this is right? Let's do a check. There's 1.9 plus 4.6 equals 6.5. I think it looks pretty good. I'm going to line them up and check it. So 9 and 6 is 15. Carry the 1. 1 and 1 and 4. So it does check out. So m is equal to 6.5. Okay, I'm going to go to 300 on that same page, page 466. So again, I'm solving. Y minus 0.6 is equal to negative 4.5. So I'm solving for y. I want to get y by itself. I need to get rid of this negative 0.6. Well, what can I do? What's the opposite of minus 0.6? Well, it's a plus. And what I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. So these cancel out. Bring the y down. Now I've got a negative and a positive. Who's got more? The negative does. So I know my answer is going to be negative. And when I'm adding and subtracting, remember I always subtract. Right? So we're going to subtract. So I need to borrow. Cross that out. Make that a 15. Make that, take away 1, make that a 3. So 15 minus 6 is 9. and then 3 minus 0 is 3, and I know it's got to be negative, so I get negative 3.9. And if I check that, negative 3.9 does negative 3.9 minus 0.6 equal negative 4.5? Well, I've got two negatives, so I'm going to add them. And that does check. So y does equal negative 3.9. Let's try another one. This is 303. And I want to solve for m. M minus 0.25 is equal to negative 1.67. So I need to get m alone. Just keep doing what we've been doing. So what's the opposite of minus 0.25? Well, I'm going to add to both sides. And make sure you line up your decimals, one up underneath each other. So these cancel out, bringing m down. And again, I've got a negative and a positive. When I'm adding a negative and a positive, the sign goes to whoever has more. $1.67 is bigger than a quarter, so I know my answer is going to be negative. And when I'm adding a negative and a positive, I subtract. So I'm going to subtract 7 minus 5 is 2, 6 minus 2 is 4, and 1 minus 0 is negative 1. So my answer is negative 1.42. And if you want to check that on your own, you can, but looking at it, it looks pretty good. Okay, let's go a little harder. Let's go to the division. This is 306. 0.4 times p is equal to 9.2. So, what's going on between the 0.4 and the p? Well, there's a times in there that we don't see. You might remember that. So what's the opposite of multiplying? Well, I'm going to divide both sides by 0.4. Remember what I do to one side? If I divide by 0.4 on one side, I have to do the same to the other. So these are going to cancel. P is going to be by himself, and I get 9.2 divided by 0.4. So we can put that in our calculator, but I'm going to show the long division on this. So, bottom into top. Remember, bottom, denominator into numerator. So, I have a point in front of my 4. I don't want that. I need to make that a whole number. So I'm going to move that over one spot. And that becomes a 4. And if I move over one spot over here, I have to move over one spot over here. So now this is 4 into 92. So again, I moved that over 1, and I moved that point in between the 9 and the 2 over 1. And no decimal points, just this only one right here. And the point goes straight up. So does 4 go into 9? It does, 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8. Subtract that. You get a 1. Bring down your 2. Does 4 go into 12? It does. 3 times. So my final answer is P equals 23.0, or just plain old 23. How would we check that? Well, again, we're going to plug in 23 for P into our equation. Okay. So let's see. Does 0.4 times 23 equal 9.2? And here I'm just checking. Okay, I'm going to take 23 times 0.4. And you did this, I believe, in section 5.2. Just a regular multiply. That's 12 carry to 1. 4 times 2 is 8, and 1 is 9. How do we know where the point goes? Well, we see we have 1 place behind the decimal. So we go over 1, and these do match up. So we know we're correct. So our answer was correct. P is 23. Good so far? Let's try another one. This is number 312. And again, I'm solving with division. I've got negative 75 equals 1.5y. So again, there's a little times in between the 1.5 and the y. So I need to get y alone. So I'm going to do the opposite of multiplication. I'm going to divide both sides by 1.5. And these cancel. I'm going to bring the y down over here. I like this on the left-hand side. So y is equal to negative 75 divided by 1.5. So again, you can punch that in your calculator or you can long divide. I'm going to show the long division for those of you that need it. Whoops. Let me get back to the problem. Sorry. Okay. I'm going to divide bottom into top, just like I've been doing. And I'm going to make it, I know my answer is going to be negative because a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So I know right now my final answer is going to be negative. So I'm just going to put that in. So on the 75, the decimal point always starts after the whole number. And if I look here, I can't divide when there's a decimal out front. So I need to make that a whole number. Again, I'm going to move one spot over to the left, and that becomes a 15. Well, what I do to one side, I need to do to the other, so I need to come over one, put the point there, and straight up. So this is like 15 being divided into 750. And the point is down there. So this 15 going to 7, it's too large, so no. This 15 go into 75. This is just a hunch I have. 5 times 5 is 25. 2 and 5, yes it does. So it goes in 5 times. But I have a 0 hanging around here, so I'm going to bring him up. So that's really saying that 15 goes into 750 50 times. So y is negative 50. And if you want to do a check, you can go ahead and multiply -50 times 1.5 and see if you get -75. And I'm going to just check that on my calculator. And it is right. It does work. I'm going to go to the last type of problem, and these are super easy. I'm going down to 318. And I'm still on page 466. So this is b over 0.3 equals -9. And I do believe that we had some problems like these with whole numbers. I think there was even one on the Exam 2 review and Exam 2. So the only thing you have to do here, if you remember, is just multiply these two. That's all you got to do, and that'll give you b. That's kind of a shortcut. So all we're going to do is multiply -9 I'm just going to multiply it. I'm not going to stick the 0 in. You don't need to stick the 0 in. Times 0.3. And 9 times 3, or -9 times 3, it's going to be a negative, is -27. But remember, I've got one place behind the decimal. So this needs to go one place. So my final answer is -2.7. How easy is that? Let me do one more of those. This is 322. This looks like about the hardest one. So I've got Q over -4, and that's equal to -5.92. And I want to solve for Q. So again, we've done this before. I'm just going to multiply. -5.92 times -4. And I'm just going to multiply that out. So -4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 9 is 36. So I'm going to leave the 6 and carry the 3. 4 times 5 is 20, and 20 plus 3 is 23. Now, what sign is it going to be? It's a negative times a negative, so it's going to be a positive. And I also need to check, where is my point going to go? Well, I have 2 spots behind the decimal, so I'm going to go over 2, and my answer is a positive 23.68. I am going to check that really quick on my calculator. Yep, that is right. So I did a couple of each type on page 466. That should get you going. And if you, again, have any questions, make sure you email me and let me know. And that's the end of 5.4. You're doing good. Keep going. You're doing great. We're almost done.